Alright, here we go. Hopefully you guys can hear me well. This is the first time using the Void headset. And I'm going to transition. There we go. Alright, the goal of tonight is I've started building the old Army computer and wanted to run you through some of the things that I found where I realized I was wrong, which is, I think, just as important as explaining what I'm doing. Um, the primary thing that came to mind when I was going through the specs and getting the system built was I was incorrect about the cores versus threads on the processor, which is the one I'm showing here, the i5-8600K. It's telling me that with that processor, it does have 6 cores, but it only has 6 threads, so there's no hyper-threading. When I was previously talking about that, when I was thinking about server processors, which is what I'm more familiar with, um, it's been a while since I've done a lot of processor research for desktops, so um, I'm familiar with them. I understand a lot of the technologies, but in this particular case, I was wrong about that part. So, human error. Hopefully, you guys can learn from that. What I have done is found that the processor works great in the Z370H motherboard. It's an amazing motherboard. It's highly configurable, and it was worth every dollar, I think. And I got it for around 150 bucks, so it was worth it. The memory's working fine in there. I'm temporarily using the 8 gigabytes of the lower quality memory just to get it going and operational. Once I'm done, I'll go ahead and start stacking in the 32 gigs of memory as well. The next part I learned, which I'll go ahead and run you over to this area. I probably should have planned this a little bit better, but you guys are along for the ride, so not really a big deal. So this is the ASUS site. The board we got is a Z370. It's a ROG Strix, but it is the Z370H. And I'm probably going to scroll right by it and scroll back by it again, so feel free to scream at the screen if we get to that point. There we go. This one here. Beautiful motherboard. Absolutely love it. But what's important here that I've learned is these two M.2 slots, they don't both support SATA drives. If you want to run a RAID array on the M.2s, they have to both be PCIe based devices. So I believe they're different. I'm pretty confident about that. I haven't done the absolute research to confirm 100%, but when I put both drives in, it would boot up with an error, which is really frustrating. After kind of tinkering around with it a little bit, even if you put an M.2 in the slot, I think this is the slot 2, it removes 2 SATA drives, so it disables, if I remember properly, the first 2 SATA ports on the motherboard, which is really frustrating too when you're trying to figure out where's all my drives, because I had an additional 1 terabyte SSD hooked up, so ran into a problem there. And if you hook up the second one, I believe the same thing occurs if you have a PCIe based computer. Additionally, with the water cooling, I got the Corsair H100 version 2 water cooler. The mounts that were in there by default fit perfect on the 1151 socket. Great fit, really smooth and easy. It came with 3 different sets of studs to screw into the back plate that would then mount the cooler onto. But I found the set of studs that worked were the fine threads on both sides. Got that hooked up, and then the fans that come with the radiator cooler setup, I went ahead and plugged those into those 2 headers at the top of the board that you see in the picture up here. Reason being is I believe that those probably need a little bit different control than all the rest of the fans in the case, because in reality, outside of the video card, the processor is going to be probably the hottest thing kicking in the system. So I wanted to make sure we got proper cooling to it. The rest of the fans are just really going to cool off the video card and the rest of the ambient temperature within the case. So overall though, great motherboard. It took a little bit jankiness to get it installed. Had some problems with the little tabs on the I/O shield, right where the DVI port is. There's 3 tabs that pop down. On the HDMI port, there's 2 tabs that hang down. And if you don't put the motherboard in there just right, you'll catch those tabs and pull them down in front of the connection, which then makes it impossible to use the connection. And thankfully, I caught that before I got all the other components installed. But I would recommend you keep an eye out for that too. Also, with the way this case is built, You could install the water cooler after you install the motherboard in the case, if that's the method you like. Uh, since this was my first time doing a water cooler, I did it the old-fashioned way. You hook it up on when the motherboard's out of the case, and then install it into the case. And that can be a logistics kind of mess when you have the radiator flopping around on an AIO. So I think next time I may try it the other way if I have that option, which I think would make a lot more sense. So the build's coming along. I'm still waiting on a fan header. That's the last thing I learned in this process is when you order off a Newegg, make sure you understand where your product is coming from. When I made the order on Newegg, I didn't realize that the fan hub, the deep cool fan hub that I purchased, is coming from no other place than China. So if it comes from China, you have to go through customs, right? So you have to go through the Chinese customs. They have to process it, give it the thumbs up. Then it comes over to U.S. customs. They give it the thumbs up, and then it gets sent to you from customs. How long that whole process takes is totally dependent on how busy they are, how bad they feel like they need to look at it. I at one point bought 14 ASICs for mining, and they made it through customs relatively quickly, whereas this one has been sitting in customs for a couple days. So, and it's really mind-boggling what the algorithm there is, whatever it may be. So it's a pain in the butt. But either way, it's still en route. It's the last piece I'm waiting on before I start buttoning up the build. I know I said I was going to do a time lapse on it, but quite honestly, I've ran into so many complexities that I don't have the drive capacity to do a full-blown time-lapse recording and chop it up and all the other joy. So what we'll do is we'll do a glam shot at the end. Also, I'll try and pick up a nicer microphone for the audio side of it, so that way the audio doesn't sound so best word for it is crappy. It just sounds really bad. I spent some time trying to get the lighting right. I don't think you can see it from back here, but I stood up, or I have 3 new lights installed. They don't have the soft boxes on them yet, but if things take off and start heading in the right direction, I'll pick them up. But otherwise, that's what we'll be using. It really helps with the install because I have light from all the directions, and I want to get the mic just to help with the clarity of the conversation. Either way, I'll start rambling. I appreciate your time, and thank you for watching the video. If you could do me a favor, click down on the. Hold on, trying to figure out. I think subscribe is going to be over here. Your alert is going to be over there, and then the thumbs up is going to be somewhere in this area. Yeah. All right. I appreciate your time, guys. You have a good day, night, whatever.